The world seemed to freeze. My eyes flickered downward for just a second, a reflex I couldn't control, and I saw everything before quickly looking away. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Hidden Love Stories. What happens when a simple accident rips the veneer off a perfect family, revealing a secret that was never meant to see the light of day? Today's story is about a forbidden connection that spirals into a dangerous game of secrets and lies. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button because you won't want to miss where this goes. It all began with something so trivial, so utterly accidental, that I still have trouble believing it led to the unraveling of my entire life. I was in the living room, folding a pile of warm laundry, when my stepson, Ethan, called out from the hallway, "Laura, can you give me a hand with this?" I turned to see him by the staircase, fumbling with the buckle on his belt. He was wearing a pair of old cargo shorts that sat low on his hips, and the leather strap was twisted at an impossible angle. "Can you fix this? It's stuck or something," he said, walking towards me. "Sure," I replied, setting the towels down. I stepped closer, my fingers working to untangle the stubborn leather from the metal buckle. "Hold still," I murmured, concentrating. "Yeah, sorry," he said, and I could feel him holding his breath. But as I finally gave the leather a firm tug, the entire buckle gave way. Before either of us could react, his shorts slid silently down to his ankles. In that frozen moment, my gaze dropped involuntarily, and I saw him. Ethan stood there, mortified, his hands hovering uselessly as a deep blush crept up his neck. Sorry," he mumbled, hastily pulling his shorts back up. I took a step back, my own cheeks burning. "It's fine, it happens," I stammered. "Yeah," he said, his voice strained. "Thanks for the help." He then turned and practically fled up the stairs, leaving me with a racing heart and a mind in turmoil. It was just an accident, a ridiculous, awkward moment, but the charged energy he left behind, the way his eyes had met mine for a split second, changed everything. We never spoke of it, but from that day on, an invisible line had been crossed. My marriage to his father, Robert, wasn't a grand romance. It was a comfortable, quiet arrangement that had long ago lost its spark. We married later in life, me at 44 and him at 50, both of us nursing wounds from our first marriages. Robert was a man of predictable routines, golf on Saturdays, monthly fishing trips, and a constant stream of client dinners. I had accepted the silence that filled our cavernous home, busying myself with charity work and gardening. Then Ethan moved in. I'd only met Robert's son a few times during his college years on obligatory holidays. He had been a reserved, awkward young man back then. But the man who arrived on our doorstep 6 years later was different. Freshly graduated with a fine arts degree, a choice Robert still scoffed at, Ethan was struggling to find his footing. Robert offered him a room without consulting me, but I didn't mind. The house was too quiet, and I secretly welcomed the company. I never expected how profoundly his presence would alter the atmosphere of our home. Ethan had a natural, easy charm and a dry, disarming wit that filled the empty spaces Robert's presence never could. It began with small moments. One morning, he found me in the backyard trimming the hedges. He leaned against the patio door, nursing a cup of coffee, a lazy grin on his face. "You're up early," I noted. He shrugged. "Couldn't sleep." "Besides, someone has to admire all this hard work," I laughed. "Don't let Robert hear you say that. He thinks the garden gnomes do it." Ethan's smile faded slightly. "Rob doesn't notice much, does he?" His comment was casual but sharp, and it hung in the air between us. Our conversations grew longer and more frequent. He'd linger in the kitchen while I cooked, telling me about college or asking for job advice. One afternoon, I found him sketching in a notebook on the living room couch. The pages were filled with stunningly intricate portraits and landscapes. "These are incredible, Ethan," I said, genuinely amazed. "Thanks," he said quietly. "You should show these to a gallery. You have real talent." He met my eyes, a faint smile on his lips. "You're the first person who's ever said that." His words landed with a weight I couldn't explain. Then came the belt incident, and the unspoken tension became a heavy shroud. A few nights later, I was washing dishes when he entered the kitchen, his hair damp from a shower. "Laura," he said softly, and my heart skipped a beat. "About the other day," he began. "I'm sorry that was so awkward." "It's fine," I said quickly, turning back to the sink. "Let's just forget it." "I don't think I can," he admitted in a near whisper. I froze, turning to face him. "Ethan, we can't," I started, but the words died in my throat. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "I know, I don't want you to think it didn't mean anything to me." Before I could process the intensity in his voice, Robert's keys rattled in the front door, shattering the moment. The following days were a torturous dance of avoidance and stolen glances. With Robert as oblivious as ever, Ethan and I were left to navigate the emotional minefield we'd created. One afternoon, he found me folding laundry in the guest room and quietly closed the door behind him. "I don't know how to act around you anymore," he confessed, his voice raw. "We have to let this go," I whispered, my voice trembling. "It was just a moment." "It wasn't just a moment for me," he said, stepping closer. And in that instant, I had to admit the truth to myself. It wasn't just a moment for me either. Have you ever felt so starved for a connection that you'd risk everything for just one moment of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're finding this story as gripping as I am, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. The first time he kissed me, I knew there was no going back. Robert was out at a poker night, and the house was quiet. I was wiping down the kitchen counters when Ethan appeared in the doorway. The air crackled with unspoken words. "Laura," he said softly, stepping into the room. "Ethan, don't," I whispered, but my protest was weak. "I can't stop thinking about you," he confessed. "This is wrong," I managed, my voice shaking. "I know," he said, closing the space between us. "But that doesn't change how I feel." And then his lips were on mine. It was tentative at first, but I didn't pull away. I couldn't. When we broke apart, breathless, I whispered, "This can't happen again." He nodded, but neither of us believed it. What started as fleeting moments spiraled into a secret we couldn't contain. We were careful, finding refuge in quiet corners of the house. But the secrecy only intensified our connection, making every stolen touch feel like an act of rebellion against the empty life I had accepted. The fear was constant. One afternoon, Robert came home from work early, finding Ethan and me sitting too close on the living room sofa. "We sprang apart, but the damage was done." "Didn't realize you had company," he said, his eyes flicking between us. The look he gave me sent a chill down my spine. His questions became more pointed. "You and Ethan seem to be getting along well," he remarked at dinner one night. "It's good to know someone's keeping you company while I'm so busy," he added, his words dripping with an unsettling meaning. The outside world began to close in. Ethan's best friend, Chris, was sharp and perceptive. "You've been spending a lot of time at home," he said to Ethan one day, his gaze shifting to me. "Must be nice, having someone to keep you company." Then there was Jessica, Robert's colleague, a woman with a predatory smile and eyes that missed nothing. She started making unannounced visits, her questions always circling back to me and Ethan. "I get the sense that things haven't been perfect between you two," she said to me one afternoon with false sympathy. "But I'm sure it helps having Ethan around. He seems so attentive." The implication was a slap in the face. The breaking point arrived at a dinner party Robert insisted on hosting. Both Chris and Jessica were there, and the air was thick with tension. "So, Laura," Jessica began, her voice cutting through the chatter, "how do you keep yourself occupied with Robert gone so often?" Before I could answer, Chris chimed in. "Yeah, Ethan's been here a lot. I guess it makes sense. Laura's pretty easy to talk to." The table fell silent. Robert's face was an unreadable mask. Ethan abruptly excused himself, and I quickly followed him into the garden. "This is falling apart," he said, pacing under the patio lights. "They all know." Before I could answer, a shadow fell over us. "What's going on out here?" Robert's voice was low and dangerous. He looked from my face to his son's.
"Funny how the two of you have so much to talk about these days." "Is there a problem?" Ethan challenged. Robert's lips curled into a cold smile. "I don't know, son."
"Should there be?" The next day, Robert announced his decision. "It's time Ethan found his own place," he said, his gaze hard as steel. When I told Ethan, he exploded.
"He's kicking me out because he's suspicious." That night, the final confrontation erupted. "You have a week," Robert told Ethan over a silent dinner. "Tolerate what?" Ethan shot back, his voice cracking with rage.
"Me being here or me getting closer to Laura than you ever could." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "Get out," Robert seethed, "before I make you regret it." Later, I found Ethan in his room, a half-packed suitcase on his bed. "Come with me," he pleaded, his eyes blazing. "Leave him. We can start over." For a breathtaking second, I let myself imagine it. But the weight of reality crushed the fantasy. "I can't," I sobbed. The next morning, he was gone. The house was suffocatingly silent. That evening, I found a note slipped under my door. My hands trembled as I read it. "You think you've won, but you don't know the whole story. I'll make sure he does. Jessica." She knew. She had seen something, and now she was holding the bomb. 2 days later, Jessica cornered me in my own kitchen. "What is this?" I demanded, holding up the note. A sly smirk played on her lips. "Exactly what it says. Robert deserves to know the truth, don't you think?" My blood ran cold. "You've already destroyed your family, Laura," she whispered. "I'm just expediting the inevitable." That night, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meet me tomorrow. Noon. The park by the bridge. E." My heart hammered against my ribs. I found him waiting, his face etched with worry. "You shouldn't have come," I whispered. "I didn't have a choice," he said, his voice urgent. Jessica came to see me. The ground felt like it was splitting apart beneath my feet. "What did she say?" "She knows everything, Laura," he said. "She wanted me to confess to Dad." "She's playing us against each other to get what she wants." I looked at him, the full weight of our situation crashing down on me. We were trapped. "We're running out of time," I whispered. He grabbed my hand. "Then we have to act before she does." This story is a powerful reminder of how emotional neglect can create a void that people will risk everything to fill. The slow decay of Laura's marriage created the perfect storm for this forbidden connection to take root. It begs the question, is betrayal born from a single moment of passion, or is it the final desperate act in a long story of loneliness and silence? The real tragedy here isn't just the affair, it's the web of secrets, manipulation, and broken trust that ensnared everyone involved. It shows that the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves.
What do you think they should do? Should they confess and face the fallout, or try to outmaneuver Jessica at her own game? Let me know in the comments.
Thank you for watching Hidden Love Stories. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales of the heart's hidden truths.